So I kind of had this thought earlier that connected to an idea of the past that was like, what if we can create a situation where we convert our currency into electricity? Then we'll have a stable monetary system that's backed by electricity. And then, take that further, that idea. And it's like, if we were to converge that idea with the idea of superpower, meaning abundant electricity, paints the borders and defines an area to build a system where peer-to-peer trade of currency can be seamless and solvent, and nothing would be backed on debt. It would be backed on percentage of abundance. So if there's ever an area that grew too fast and met the abundance of its area, then the whole globe would pitch in to, expand their capacity through this trading of electricity. So they'd send batteries to them to begin as they build out more solar. So it's like this whole system would interact with itself and kind of make it to where any peaks and valleys would fill themselves in automatically. And if you think about it, like autonomous vehicles are going to be able to do that in short order. They can get there at the speed of the speed limit and above and have, 60 kilowatts of energy plug into the local grid. But then there's also you can think, okay, if there's free and abundant energy in the form of electricity, and electricity is our currency. So try to think outside the laws of our current economic monetary system. When we create a new system, the current laws don't apply to it. Think of it more like a decentralized platform that's made up of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of microgrids and micro distribution networks, which we'll get into later when we lay out our argument of this transition from economy 1.0 to economy 2.0, and then the ability for open source cooperative platforms to proliferate in economy 2.0 to the point where people are able to choose from a set of platforms that provide socioeconomic value and shift dependency away from centralized entities onto a decentralized platform that provides the same outcome. And this is the type of mindset that we're talking about. These platforms are going to develop at a rate where it doubles in capability every X amount of time, and that's going to catch up to where current government is quickly. And it's just by engaging with the platform, you could benefit more than what you're depending on the government for now. So it's like it would benefit you to switch, and then making that segment of the government irrelevant because it's not able to offer what this platform is able to offer because of the budget. So social services and socioeconomic services usually don't scale to the need. They provide as much as they can with the allotted budget. So if you're able to create a decentralized platform that is subjecting this socioeconomic good or service to zero marginal cost, you're going to be able to scale to the exact need, meaning everybody will have that need met because of the zero marginal cost economic. It's important to keep that in mind. Is the further a learning curve and the zero marginal cost curve, develops, the closer to zero that cost gets. Theoretically, you're going to have philanthropy able to cover the cost of a perpetual funding of that good or service for people, permanently. So, and I've made that argument for a while and people can't grasp it yet, but you're able to do it if the infrastructure exists and the platform is digitized, but the effect is not only energetic, it can be local and physical. So it's not just because it's digital doesn't mean it can't have a physical effect. And don't just think, oh, it's just local to a device. No, it's a platform to connect movements and collaborate and meet physically and make a difference physically. And then eventually robots will be doing that automatically based on the way we think in ways that will benefit the world. And then making it known where other people think that the world should go in terms of destruction and downward motion, because there will be those kind of people. If we're connecting free and abundant energy and energy as currency, and then we say, oh, a certain amount of currency can perpetuate development of this to the future, the more platforms that develop that are touching different areas, the better. And then you can converge two platforms together and then create something new from that, or converge three or four together, and then create this like mechanism where you can pick and choose based off your own individual circumstances which platforms benefit you the most in terms of where you want to be. And then abundance, just abundance of that need. So you don't have to worry about it. And then we see free and abundant energy is vital to our expanse as human beings. Because right now you can literally say we're capped in advancement physically by how much energy we can produce. So, we build out these giant centralized generation distribution networks that are good, but only focus on that jurisdiction. We're talking about focusing on everything as a whole. So this is a global event, and the areas where it's cheaper, we'll build it out faster. Areas where it's more expensive, we'll build it out just with a small delay, because that continual price decline will happen even for the areas where it's more expensive. At a certain point, the areas that have built out cheap and are at 500% capacity, then we can start to say, okay, our currency becomes the foundation to unlock our abundance, which I know doesn't make sense now because that's the way it's being made to look like now. But that currency can only be accumulated through certain ways. With an economy 2.0, the currency will be able to be accumulated in increasingly more and more ways, in infinite amount of ways that can benefit the planet. So over time, there will be more and more actions that people can take that would increase their ability to accumulate the currency over time. And it would, so then transitioning that into a copiosis type look, again, I think it would be more palatable and easier to create a seamless transition if currency was all electricity, all measurable, and backed by something with value that's tangible. And technically it's tangible in a battery. Electricity does have a good replacement of money, kind of criterion. So we can go over what the 6 different criteria in money are and see how many of those apply to electricity. I've never done the experiment, but I'm assuming that it would be quite a bit. Because it could be a medium of exchange, because everywhere has electricity already, stored value because you can keep it in a battery and it won't degrade. So you can create as many decimal points as you want and use that much energy. With AI, it can take the decimal all the way down. So you can divide it even further than Bitcoin. And there's more. There's 3 more. I can't remember them off the top of my head. But, and then theoretically, the velocity of money would increase because it's not locked in any silos or jurisdictions controlled by banks or central banks. It would be all based on the generation of, distribution of, and use of electricity. So if we could shift our entire monetary system onto that, that's a different thought. And I've watched a lot of videos about how that would change the world in today's socio-economy. And it's interesting. It's like, oh, you can send kilowatt hours with text messages and stuff in Africa right now. So these things exist, and we can learn from what they're doing to be able to incorporate this into our lives. That's right. And that most of the calculations just involve the surface of the Earth. But if you take the panels up into space, then it's a different story. Then you're not limited by the surface of the Earth. Right. So you could just build mega solar farms in space and send that energy down, and that'll add to the overcapacity of the entire system. As we develop energy generating technologies that are subject to zero marginal cost and or a giant step change like fusion or like what Nikola Tesla did, that kind of thing, less and less will be needed in the future because it'll be able to provide the same amount or more with less resource and or no resources. If we're increasing the efficiencies, decreasing the cost, and increasing use cases, then it's like, okay, so what about all asphalt and concrete surfaces? That's something I did my research on. So that's like at a meta level, that's exactly what we're talking about, is creation and plus some gain. So not a zero sum where you have to take from to give to. This is meeting together to create something. So convergent. Right. You take it further to where we take it from our currency being backed by electricity to our currency being backed by positive emotion. And that's the end game with the gross national happiness measurement based on data that's collected regularly from everybody measuring their tones. It's not the words they're saying, but the tones. And then people can see exactly where their region ranks and talk to each other about it and be like, what can we do to change things around here? So, and that can be done on their own. So that's what I mean by seamless transition. It's like, okay, now that all of this worry has evaporated and purpose for war and all this kind of stuff, why would we waste our time thinking that current situations and effects would apply to there? It won't happen. So that's why history is not a good indicator of where we're moving post digital disruption. Right. But tens of millions of people are going to realize that some of the technologies that already exist today or are coming out today are going to dematerialize academia. They're going to dematerialize R&D. They're going to dematerialize government institutions, dematerialize everything to be able to increase the value of anything through this digital, because you're able to scale to need. You mentioned that a little earlier, but another important piece of the puzzle is you get to create your own mix of socioeconomic services and goods, where now you have to engage with government, business, nonprofit, religion, and other to do it. You're just going to have to think it in the future. You're not going to have to engage with anything to do it. Your AI will most likely be your AI communicating with their AI. And then locking all the benefits into the blockchain and not asking for any paperwork. So it's all going to be seamless.
So tell me about building platforms.
You start with the mission and a massive transformative purpose, like how a number of businesses start today or cooperatives. As your offerings start to, okay, this is the way to say it. As we start to see all these other technologies hit the scene, they're going to converge with these already existing platforms and enable them to increase their trajectory of disruption when the convergence happens. So when you add AI and blockchain to one of these platforms that's meant to teach people how to do urban farming or provide food and water or blockchain for identity, these, specific instances, it's going to increase its capability over time. And then the more it converges with these new techs, that quicker that acceleration is going to happen to where it's at the level of government services now, and then it'll disrupt that out of existence because it'll be able to do way more. No, it's just, how hard it is for us to stay positive now. It'll be just as hard to be negative then.
Okay. It'll seem alien. It'll seem icky.
Right. So don't worry about it. The population of the globe, and specifically humans. Some people argue that we're about to peak within the next 10 years and then start to decrease. Some argue it'll be increasing for a while and then flatten out. Some argue it'll start to decrease sooner than 10 years. We've built out infrastructure for the level of population we have now. And if we have fewer population, then there'll be less people to buy goods, less people to do work, less people to provide all these services for the current economic system, which kind of is like vital to the importance of building out this abundant solar, wind, and energy and transitioning to economy 2.0 before we start to peak. And that's important because longevity is going to increase. So we're going to have a decreasing amount of people that are getting older. Having abundance ready for the next transition is vital. Replacing all asphalt and concrete surfaces with solar panels, making transportation infrastructure renewable and pay for itself. So we don't need to charge taxes on electricity for it in the future. Also have it connect to all the vehicles so as to prevent accidents, that these autonomous, more data for them to read, like, oh, there's something ahead around the bend that you can't see yet, go over here, kind of thing, and prevent collisions with animals and stuff like that. People can start to create their own program that makes them feel better and better just by doing what they're doing. And, by giving people more options with this decentralized cooperative layer, they can get more fulfillment out of the same effort. So that's kind of the idea, is that you're not doing more, but you're getting more. And that requires socioeconomic change.